Hey board gamers, have you ever wanted to start your own phone company? You know, name your phone something wacky like what Elon does to his cars. Oh, and maybe spy on everyone, you know, just a little bit. Well, wonder no further, because you can do all that in Smartphone Inc. In Smartphone Inc., 1 to 5 players will compete as CEOs of mobile phone companies. Everyone will be producing and selling batches of mobile phones and try to expand worldwide while also developing new phone technologies. As with a lot of games, you win by getting the most points. There are 5 rounds in the game and each round has 8 simple phases. We'll skip ahead to phase 7 so that everything makes more sense. The main way for you to get points is by selling your batches of phones, which only happens during the 7th phase. These transparent cubes represent boxes of your phones that are ready to be sold. The board shows all the possible countries you can sell your phones to. Let's say you wanted to sell your phones in India because your company has a branch in that country. There are 6 buyers in India. The numbers on the first 3 buyers represent the maximum phone price each buyer will accept. So if the number is 5, that buyer will only accept phones that has a price of 2, 3, 4 or 5. You also have these buyers with technology symbols on them instead, but let's ignore them for now and I'll expand it later in the video. So let's say you have 2 batches both at the price of 3. You can technically sell them to the first 3 buyers. However, you have to choose the buyers closest to the left first if possible before going to the right. After selling the 2 batches each with the price of 3, you will then gain 6 points. This is the most important bit of the game. The rest of the game is basically just many supporting tools that you can use to improve this particular part of the game. And you want to get very good at this part because it will win you the game. Planning for this phase is important. And since about 90% of the planning of your round happens during the first phase, let's go back to the beginning of the round. In this planning phase, everyone will take their 2 double-sided pads that was given at the start of the game and overlap them to determine what action they will take for the rest of the round. There are 6 cells on each side of the pad and you must overlap 1 to 4 cells. Everyone starts with the same 2 pads, but not with the same improvement tiles. These improvement tiles can be put on top of your pads, but you must always have the whole tile covering other cells. So something protruding out like this is not allowed. If you don't want to use them, you simply flip it upside down. There are 6 different kinds of symbols, and I'll explain them as we go with the phases. Everyone configures their pads secretly before finally revealing them at the same time. From this point onwards, no one can change their configurations this round. Let's say that we configured ours like this, and let's move on to the second phase. In this set prices phase, you simply change your phone selling price on this track. You always start around with the price of 5. Then you increase or decrease depending on your pad configurations. Your price increases by 1 for each of the plus dollar sign, and you decrease them by 1 for each minus cells you have. So in this case, we'll have to increase the price 1 time, but then also decrease it 2 times. And that's literally it for phase 2. Phase 3 is the production phase, where you'll be generating those transparent cubes to sell later on. For each of these box symbols on your pads, you'll get 1 cube. Plus, for each overlapping cells on the 2 pads, you'll also get 1 cube. You do not count the improvement cells for this bit. Instead, for each improvements you do not use, you'll get 1 cube. So in this case, I'll get 3 cubes from my pads, plus 1 extra because I overlapped 1 cell, but none from the improvement tiles because I used all of them. So on our player tray, we take 4 cubes from the left side reserve and put it on the right one like so to indicate that 4 of those cubes are ready to be sold. Moving on to phase 4, now is the time to get more improvement tiles. Every round, 5 new improvement tiles are displayed, and because we have this cell active on our pad, we'll be able to take one of them. Who gets to choose first depends on the price of everyone's phones. If you have the lowest phone price out of everyone, then you'll get to pick first, followed by second lowest, and so on and so forth. If you have the same price as someone else, whoever has got the lower score will go first. This turn order rule is going to apply from this phase until the end of the round. If you don't have the improvement cell active on your pad, you'll get this goods token instead, which will give you 1 extra cube every round during the 3rd phase. Then we move on to phase 5 for research and development, where you look for these gear symbols on your pads. Every game you will have 6 technologies that can be built into your phone. They require a number of gears before you can unlock them. If you are the first one to unlock a technology, you will get a breakthrough token for that technology, which gives you extra flat points at the end of the game. The technology then becomes slightly easier for everyone else to obtain, but they won't be able to get that breakthrough points. Our pad right here only has 2 technologies, so we wouldn't be able to break through anything this round. Instead, we can just put these 2 markers representing progress to any of the 6 technologies. That way, you can continue progressing next round. There are 2 benefits of these technologies. The first one depends on what is shown on their description tiles, which will be varying depending on the initial setup. They can either give you an instant one-time benefit or a long-lasting one until the end of the game. The second benefit allows you to sell to more buyers. If you recall, there are buyers in phase 7 that have technology symbols instead of numbers. You can only sell to those buyers if you have obtained the technology that they are looking for, regardless of your phone price. Moving on to the logistics in phase 6, where we look at the blue trucks on our pads. Everyone starts the game by only being able to access 1 country, and this is the phase where we can try branching out to neighboring countries connected by these lines. Similar to the previous phase, each blue truck symbol on your pad gives you 1 progression marker, but you place the markers on the map instead of the technology space. Say we start the game in North Africa. Following the lines, you could see that these 4 countries are connected. In order to unlock them, you need the specified numbers of those markers. We can put our markers on 2 different countries and continue to progress next round. But since Emirates only requires 2 of them, we might as well just unlock it right away. Once unlocked, you place your tower in that country, and now you can sell to that country as well as start progressing towards the countries connected to it. And this is where things start to get a little spicy. In the next phase, which was the selling goods phase that we discussed earlier, each seller can only buy 1 batch per round, so you'll have to compete with everyone to sell them first. On top of that, there are majority bonuses every round that you can get. For example, if there are 3 players in South America, the person who sold the most phones to that country will get 5 points. Sometimes a secondary bonus will be available for the second most seller. We are ignoring all these other bonuses. We would have used one of them instead if exactly 1, 2 or 4 players have access to the country. After everyone had taken their turn selling their cubes, we finally arrive at the last phase where you calculate the points and majorities from the previous phase. After phase 8, the round is over and you prepare the board for the next round. One thing to remember is that if you have any leftover unsold phones, they will not be carried over to the next round. And yeah, after 5 rounds of that, whoever has got the most points will win the game. That's basically 99% of the rules to play this game. So how good is this game? First off, this is probably the best board game production I've seen in a while. From the delicious double-layered game board to the player trays and the transparent pieces. They are quite functional, or at least not overdone. Seriously, these components are taken straight out of a board gamer's wet dream. Moving on to the gameplay, I really like the game's pad mechanics. They basically found a unique way to make action selection really interesting and fun. It's almost like a mini puzzle game in itself. Top that off with the fact that you can customize your pads using the improvements, and you'll have this really satisfying mechanic. I truly cannot say enough praises about this one because it's such a great and enjoyable feature. This game is a lot simpler and more streamlined than it looks, but there is still a ton of interesting decisions to be made. You will have to balance out these aspects of the game as all of them are important for generating points. The player interaction in the game is very pronounced as you are constantly pressured by other players from having your points and other things taken away from you. The 90 minutes game duration on the box is quite accurate. They maintain a rather meaty game under 2 hours, probably by making the longest part simultaneous, though it might take a bit longer for the first game. All the compliments aside, the only ideal player count of the game is 5 players. This on itself is kind of a huge plus, since to me there aren't many good 5+ player games that are not party games. However, this game's experience declines quite rapidly as you reduce the player count. With 4 players or less, you have to cover the buyers of some countries with these retail strips so no one can sell their cubes there anymore. But unlocking that country will now give you a bonus and 1 off points. This kinda feels like a patched on fix to make the game tighter. Honestly, not terrible at 4, but once you get to 3 or 2 players, well, let's just say that there's a reason why they make 2 to 3 player boards in the expansion. Lastly, they managed to make probably the spookiest marker ever in the board game history. Meet Steve, the marker you'll use in a solo game, or the thing your parents said will come to you when you don't finish your vegetables. And that's it for this review. I highly recommend this medium weight interactive game for 5 players. It's fine with 4 players, but don't bother with 2 or 3. Definitely try it if you had the chance because this is a design you don't wanna miss. Let me know if you like this video in the comments down below, and check out my channel for more videos like this. See ya!